Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Redberryweo here, and welcome back to another quick video. Today, while it is oriented towards cadets, it could go towards anyone. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about initiative and the importance of initiative that I have seen, and just talk a little bit about sometimes where I did or did not take initiative and what the results were. So, to define initiative, I want you to think about it for just a quick second. What is initiative? So initiative is just doing something without being prompted to do it. So an example of initiative might be I raise my hand in class when I have a question. So you taking the initiative to raise your hand in class enables you to better learn that concept, especially since you have a question for it, and it might help other people in the room because they may have the exact same question as you do. And if you want to put the example into the cap sphere of things, you might think of initiative being where a first sergeant notices that the squadron is behind on the meeting's agenda. And they're like, oh no, we're 15 minutes behind. Instead of waiting for the cadet commander to be like, hey, first sergeant, we need to do something about that, the first sergeant might go up to the cadet commander and be like, hey, cadet commander, this is something I have observed. Here's my recommendation to help remedy us being behind. And so that first sergeant is taking initiative because they aren't being prompted to go ahead and provide that insight to the cadet commander. Because that cadet commander just might not realize, oh wait, we're actually behind on things. And so by taking initiative, that first sergeant might have helped save the meeting and just kind of like get things back on track, even though they were starting to lead into really being behind. So initiative is something that I have found to be a very valuable skill that I have learned over time. At first, I think I wouldn't take initiative when I had questions, or if I needed help on something, I would just kind of tough it out on my own. As an example, I was taking a programming class at one point, and with this programming class, there was a problem where there was a little alien, and there was a ship with this alien. And there was actually a ton of these aliens. It was an infinite number of aliens just in the ship, and they would bounce around the different walls, or like around the island, because it was an island. They would bounce around the different beaches of the island until they found a tomato, and once they found a tomato, they would bring it back to their ship. That was the assignment. I spent maybe 6 hours just sitting there trying to figure it out, doing my very best to just resolve it, because in theory, it was a very simple programming problem. It was like, whenever the alien sees water, turn a certain number of degrees, and if they still see water, turn another number of degrees. If they still see water, turn another number of degrees, and once they no longer see water in front of them, then just continue to hop and look for tomatoes. Right? That was the solution. But every time I would keep trying, they would randomly drown still and just hop straight into the water. And whenever they hopped into the water, they would make a sound. And it would be like, blah, blah, blah. So, over and over again, infinite number of aliens here, I would just hear blah, 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 over and over and over. I was just being driven nuts. And I was just so determined. I really, really, really wanted to figure it out. But I couldn't. And so, stubborn me, I was like, well, I'm going to keep going through it and trying. Now, I had someone else who was a friend who was really good at programming, and I talked them through my solution. They were like, oh, yeah, it should work. And I even went to office hours, and I was like, hey, TA, here's my solution, but it's not working. And they're like, well, sorry, we can't help you here. And so when I did eventually take initiative, it was a little bit too close to the deadline for me to be able to do a whole lot for it, but I was able to talk to a few people and be like, hey, could you help me out here? And, well, I didn't really get much help. Or at least the help that I needed in order to find the solution. Because they were like, we're not going to tell you the solution. And I was like, I don't need you to tell me the solution. I can't figure out what I'm doing wrong here. So anyway, go a few years later to this past year, I was putting together a game called GT10. And whenever I had a huge programming problem, instead of me just struggling through it for a long time, I would struggle through it a little bit, trying to figure it out on my own. But once I was like, I'm not going to be able to solve this because I'm starting to get impatient with myself, and I think I need to cool off and focus on something else. So I would approach someone who's a friend who's really experienced with programming and saying, hey, what are your thoughts on this? How could I problem solve with this? And just being able to go back and forth and have a dialogue or have them take a look at what I put together was really useful. It was an additional perspective that let me take a step back from what I was doing, focus on something else, come back a little bit more fresh, and be able to chat with that other person. Now, that is a good example of taking initiative to find help and support. Now, regardless of how much experience you have in Civil Air Patrol, or regardless of how much experience you have in anything, it's okay to ask other people for help. And that's a tough lesson to learn, but it can be really liberating when you find like there isn't that barrier of being able to ask for help. Because other people, if you care for them, you support them, you take initiative, and it's like, oh, I see this person is dragging in a very heavy bin for an activity tonight. Let me help them carry it. By those small actions, and that's initiative, taking initiative, you can support others, and others will reciprocate in return. So those are just two quick stories of my programming experience put into the context of taking initiative, and I'm curious what your guys' experience is with taking initiative. Are there instances that you wish you had taken initiative, or are there instances where you took initiative and it paid off? I would be really interested to hear about your experiences in the comments down below. I know this is just a quick video, but I just wanted to do a quick segment on initiative because it's something that I really wish I saw more often, and I just wanted to talk about it because I'm still mastering it, but taking steps to becoming a better person at taking that initiative. So I hope this helps you guys, and I'll look forward to your comments. So thank you so much for watching, and that is all, folks. Until next time, toodles.